Just give.
Hey everybody.
Give what you can.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, and we're getting ready to go live. We got Morgan in the room. Hey dude. We got Steve Loader here, and we got Rob Cantor. Give him a second. This is loud and distracting to me, but I thought I'd play.
Good point. Here you go. Your cash.
A little Molly McGee, but okay, here we go. Hopefully, accept.
Hey, buddy.
We got it. Hey,
we did it.
Hey.
Hello. Yay.
Yay. It's been Steve. I don't think I've seen you in a long time since the Tinkerbell premiere.
But you're on the East Coast, right?
I'm actually in the Central Coast. I'm in Nashville at the moment, but you know, I'm back and forth between Brooklyn and Nashville. You're in LA, correct?
Yep.
Rob
Yep.
is in LA.
I'm in LA. This is true.
We've gone over a lot of territory so far.
We've covered the geography. Yep. We got down the basics.
So, for those of you who don't know, I think a lot more people are probably familiar with Rob because we are on my channel, which is more telehealth based. So let's quick synopsis on Steve Loader, who we've actually known for a very long time, and it's through involvement with Tally Hall. Steve was, I would say, originally a fan and supporter, and eventually a collaborator with Tally Hall. He directed the Hidden Ascend music video. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty amazing. And he has been involved with us from pretty early on. So quick rundown of some shows from his bio. If you don't know, Kim Possible. I'm going through your Wikipedia too because I wouldn't remember all this stuff.
Please do. That's great.
Kim Possible, Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, American Dragon Jake Long. He was involved with Happy Monster Band, which is when we first started really working with you. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command and Legend of Tarzan series, Red and Stimpy show, which anyone my age has grown up with. Duckman, Stressed Eric, Kevin Smith Clerks, the animated series, which is super dope. Penguins of Madagascar, Tinkerbell, and The Legend of Never Beast, and probably other things I'm not mentioning right now. Most importantly, the Ghost and Molly McGee, which is what we're
nailed it. But I got
why we're here.
You got it. You got the whole thing. Thank you.
Paused and you came through like a complete winner.
I'm thrilled someone updated the Wikipedia. I gotta say.
They didn't put that in the Wikipedia yet, so
that was me earlier today. I wanted to make sure everyone was prepared. You're welcome, Steve.
Actually, you didn't update that one yet, so that's why it threw me off. I was like, why are we here? No. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I guess let's start with you and talk about. I got a lot of questions about how you got into animation. You're executive producer on this show. You're a very talented director. You kind of play a man who plays many roles. So what brought you to this point in your career? I guess give us a little background.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, we'll start, I'm from the East Coast. I'm a New Yorker. And I was very, very fortunate, right out of high school to kind of be hired by Disney Consumer Products in New York City to draw Mickey for bed sheets and T-shirts and stuff like that. So I didn't. How did they find you? Feel the need. It was interesting. My brother and I, John, you'll hear John mentioned a lot. John is an amazing artist, far better than I am. He and I went to a shopping mall where there was a Disney artist drawing Mickey for kids and stuff. And we brought a bunch of our drawings and said, "Hey, look at these. And they were so impressed. They were like, "All right, here's a business card.
Oh, wow.
Call us when you get out of school, kids. That kind of thing." And,
how old were you?
Well, I was probably still in high school, but John immediately was hired, I think, on the spot because he was of age.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you guys bring the drawings with you, knowing that there were going to be artists there, or was it just
Oh, yeah.
happy accident that okay, you
No,
planned
no,
that?
we knew it. It was planned. It was orchestrated. Absolutely.
Nice.
100%. But yeah,
Enterprising.
it was kind of one of those dream meetings because our career kind of took off from there. Yeah, so I was at Disney Consumer Products for a while in New York. I worked for Jim Henson for a while. That was a lot of fun.
For the man himself?
I did meet the man himself. Yeah, I was actually
Wow.
hired based on the strength of one image in my portfolio, which was of David Bowie. It was a caricature of David Bowie. And at the time, they were interested in creating a David Bowie puppet as a gift for his work on Labyrinth, actually. I don't think that ever happened in the long run, but still it got me into the door at Henson, so that was amazing.
That's super cool. Wow.
And it was great because it was in the penthouse. It was East 69th Street in the Henson penthouse where all the business happened downstairs and Jim lived upstairs.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool place, and big stained glass mural on top of Kermit and everything.
Was he
amazing.
Was he as nice as we all want him to be in your interactions with him?
Yeah, he was. I mean, a couple of times in my absolutely. A couple of times in my career, I've met people that you can really say, "Oh, that's a genius." Yeah, and Jim Henson is absolutely one of them. Very kind, very creative, always thinking of the next big thing, the next wonderful creative, outlet or direction to go in. So yeah,
that's so
amazing.
Cool. That's awesome.
And then also while I was in New York, I went to these animation festivals that were popular at the time, adult animation festivals called Spike and Mike animation festivals, actually. And they had the pilot to Ren and Stimpy. It was called Big House Blues. And it was on the festival circuit at the time. And I saw that and I said, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I have to do that. So I packed my bags, moved to California, and got a job on the Ren and Stimpy show.
That's incredible.
It's that easy. You just move to California and you get hired at the exact show you're aiming for.
There was some connections that I had there. There was a test, a drawing test I had to do to make that happen. But it was great. And and I didn't even know where I was going to live. I figured I'd find the studio and I'd find an apartment in walking distance of the studio because I'll be spending most of my time at the studio anyway. And it all worked out in that regard. And the show was amazing to work on.
How long did that run for? Well, first of all, anyone who's watching this, so the answer to the question, how do I get into the animation industry? You just be great, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
It's a little different today than it was when I kind of got into it, because now I feel like talent is kind of asked to do that much more. And I think it has to do with technology. I think that there's so many, tools at your disposal, painting tools, drawing tools, editing tools, that you have to kind of be a jack of all trades, which may be kind of, wrong, to be asking of artists. But I think that that's kind of the demand now. And I think a lot of artists really have to be multi-talented to get people's attention in that way, unfortunately.
I think it's true, and probably true in music too, just as the technology advances and enables you to do more from your home on your laptop. It's going to be that much more competitive, and people will expect that much more from you.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't just go around like playing the acoustic guitar for people. You need to be able to produce the demo and make it sound professional from the start.
Yep.
Which is totally, I guess it's the same thing in animation.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah.
Okay, so you do Ren and Stimpy. Goes okay. Some people heard of it.
And I have to say, it was the only show I've ever been on where if you wear a crew jacket, it can get you, good tables at restaurants. It could get people asking you for your autograph on the street. I mean, it was an interesting time. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
So
was it
from there?
I was just gonna. Sorry, Andrew.
Go.
It has cult status and holds a near and dear place in people's hearts. At the time, was it as popular as it was? It like you knew how beloved it was?
Yeah, it was a little overwhelming actually, because there was the expectation bar was set so high, and we felt it, and so that's why we spent all our time redrawing, reworking, rewriting, because we felt the pressure of getting it perfect. So it was tough.
What is that when you say you work on Ren and Stimpy? Like, what is your day-to-day with that show?
I started out as a character layout artist, which we would actually draw kind of pretty much all the poses that you see of the characters, all the great, expressions and stuff like that. We actually drew that in-house. So we would do it as artists. But I think within a year or so, I actually kind of moved up from that to a director. And it was like my first gig in animation. Again, super fortunate. So I ended up directing, I think, after the first year at Ren and Stimpy.
So I mean, as someone who doesn't know what a director does, what does a director's hat for an animation project look like?
It's a little bit different depending on the project you're on. For a director on Ren and Stimpy, it was kind of an all-inclusive thing because we didn't necessarily write scripts for the show. It was what they call a board-driven show, a storyboard-driven show, where all the ideas would kind of come out in storyboard. Storyboard is kind of a comic book, almost like representation of an entire episode, where it's a drawn panel and some dialogue written underneath it to kind of signify what's going on in this particular moment in the show. And so it's kind of an illustrated comic book of the episode that you're about to make. And we would pretty much write the script through that. And the directors would have input in that. And then they would take it from there to record the voices, create the designs, help guide designing the backgrounds, and just take it every step of the way down the line to completion.
So in a board-driven show like that, are the writers and the board artists sitting in a room together, going through the scene and sketching each board, and like so the writing process is really collaborative as you're sort of sitting around sketching like that? How long does it take?
Sometimes it was definitely. It depends because it was sometimes because it was gag driven or story driven. It would be you do a little piece, go away, do another little piece. But like all those images you see, like of like old time Walt Disney things, we have a bunch of guys in suits standing around a bunch of drawings and they're pointing and laughing. That kind of was the reality. That's the vibe. You pinned up all the storyboards, and then you would just kind of, try to make each other laugh. And that was kind of you'd act out the stuff. Because you were selling the gag, right? Yeah. So it's like, all right, and Ren does this, and you do the voices, you pratfall to kind of land it. So it was like almost like performance art in a way to sell your episode,
Nice.
Amazing.
Sounds fun. Yeah, it sounds like a fun job. Probably high pressure, but super enjoyable.
I would guess the entire staff of that show was friendly and really like a fun crowd, because you have to be to have a successful show. I would think
it was mostly. I mean, it was
mostly.
Who did you hate?
Because I gotta be
get down to it.
And the reason why I gotta be truthful is there's books and a documentary that's been made about the making of the show. And for me to come out and say it was a great experience with kind of
genuous.
He's kind of lying. It was a tough show with a lot of strong personalities. It was the type of thing where for the type of show we were making, it was the largest collection of edgy personalities you can put in a room, because that's the type of people that would make the show collectively. And that sounds great in theory, but it was tough. I mean, it was kind of the best of times, worst of times for me personally, because I learned so much, but I think there's psychic scars, that I'm still healing from to this day, actually, regarding it. So, and they're very well documented.
So, yeah. Cool. So post Ren and Stimpy, you finished around a successful show. Where do you go from there? It's all downhill, I guess. I'm just kidding.
Until the Ghost of Molly McGee.
Yeah.
It was a string of interesting stuff. I mean, it was a bunch of adult shows. It was Duckman, Stressed Eric. Then it was a lot of kids shows, like ages 6 to 11 type of shows at Disney. So it was all going well, and it leads to actually Happy Monster Band. So at this point, in time, my resume was pretty much full of adult and 6 to 11 stuff, and I kind of felt like my resume needed to be more schizophrenic and more confusing. So I said, I haven't done preschool. I have not done preschool yet. Yeah. And so I took that gig from Kickstart Entertainment. It was Lawrence Lunsford. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And for Happy Monster Band. And it was done with Titmouse, which was great because I hadn't worked with them. So I was on site.
What did Titmouse do on Happy Monster Band?
They did all the animation.
They did? I had no idea.
Facilities. Yeah. Oh, wow. And we used their facilities to actually produce it. So I was there.
In the Hollywood office? The old Hollywood office?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This industry talk. Titmouse isn't a Disney production company.
It is not. Titmouse is actually a really incredible kind of independent production house that they produce amazing stuff. I mean, all of the really cool genre moving stuff has kind of come out of Titmouse.
I think you used to watch. I remember you watching Metalocalypse in the van. Is that a real memory, or did I just?
Oh yeah.
That? I think that was the creators of Metalocalypse formed Titmouse, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And really, it was really funny to be doing that show there because doing a preschool show there also was not quite the flavor of the studio. But it was and go ahead, sorry.
I was had you heard of Tally Hall before Happy Monster Band, or was that our introduction to you?
I had not. So as I started getting these songs in, they didn't even tell me who you guys were. I figured they just pulled together some band somewhere to kind of do these songs. And actually, I have a question for you guys, because I kind of felt like your identity as the band doing Happy Monster Band was a little cagey at the time, because it was kind of like, well, don't openly talk about that. Were you guys trying to purposely separate the careers in that way?
I'm pretty sure our manager, I'm pretty sure our manager insisted on that at the time.
Yeah, because we were trying to build build the band as like something. We were super tight knit and controlling of our creative of our image, to sort of say, as any band trying to make it a living does. And it just didn't fit in with everything else we were doing. So we're like, okay, this is a really cool project, fun. And I would say without doing Happy Monster Band, I don't know if we would have continued like much beyond it. It definitely gave us some financial stability at a time where we didn't have any. We were playing shows and making $300 a night for 5 of us and band, and
but those were $2,003. You have to factor that in.
Inflation's very high, so yeah.
Well, and the songs were great. And I remember, I think you guys were writing it while touring, because I remember we get like a song, like someone wrote it on a bus or demoed it on a bus, I think a couple of times, which was great because it had a real spontaneous, energy to it.
Well, I would say right. Yeah, definitely. We're writing for a series that's continual and weekly. It's impossible to do when you're in a touring band. So we actually divided it up, and we're like, everybody's responsible for 2 songs at a time, including like Ross, who doesn't even write. But
who I think at that point had never written a song.
Yeah,
but he wrote a bunch of great Happy Monster Band songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart guy. We're like, you can do this. And we, coached and we all worked on it together until we were happy with everything. And then we'd go in the studio, and for 3 days or something, we'd take the demos that we'd all created and spruce them up.
You know what always made me laugh about that show, though, was that they would show the monsters talking during the like little scene before the song, and they were kid voices.
Right.
They were like 12-year-old actors. But then the song would start, and it was our adult male voices.
Suddenly a jump. Yes.
Kids watching the show, I guess that didn't bug them. They were fine with just puberty struck every episode at about the 90-second mark.
Well, the songs are so good. I mean, it's like you just got into the songs, and so all right. So then when I found out, Tally Hall was the band doing it, I had to get the CD because the original version of Marvin's was out at that time, and so here's the thing: I was in LA. I could not find a single copy in LA at all. So
it's always a good sign. That's what you want to do when you're a band.
So I had to drive to Santa Barbara. I had to drive to Santa. It was like a 2-hour drive to pick up a CD. I called the store. I said, "Do you have this?" Yeah, we have it.
we didn't want casual fans. We weren't interested in your run of the mill. Sure, I like them. They're okay. There's CDs on every corner. We wanted guys that were willing to commit.
Yes.
And you earned our respect that day.
You made the cut.
Exactly.
And I gotta say, on the drive, the 2-hour drive back, I had that album on a loop, and it was honestly, it fell in love. I mean, from that point on, I was enamored with the band. I was enamored with the style, the sensibility, the writing, the message, and I like to think that's when I kind of became like a Tally Hall like booster, like auxiliary member, because I feel like through the years, it's kind of like, I don't want to get into that in a second, how I've kind of, been around. I've been like in like a circle, like kind of like the inner circle of the band in some way, like, and I always pictured in my mind, like, all right, you have all of these like really cool, like, friends located around the United States. So we're your auxiliary squad. So like, oh, Ross is lost in LA. Who can we call from our booster squad? Go find Ross. Go get Ross. But yeah, so fell in love with the band, and and so we finished Happy Monster Band, and I think I was there with you guys and got really friendly with you guys as you were kind of moving into the Atlantic Records deal to remix Marvin. And then I remember that you guys were then starting the internet show. And so you were doing I think, premiere performance at Largo, right? For the internet show?
For the internet show,
yeah. Yeah, it was the first one. And so it was in the lobby. I remember, like, in the courtyard of Largo, that Ross came to me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing an animated piece of the internet show? Because I guess even though you premiered there, you were still in production.
That's interesting. We were so far behind that we were showing the first episode, but hadn't even started producing the animated music video, which would obviously take a long time.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't remember that timeline, but that's interesting.
And I liked, and I think you guys can verify this, that it felt like same thing like Happy Monster Band. It was a little bit, sounded like a divide and conquer kind of sensibility, whereas each member was kind of the lead person for a segment. So Ross was the lead person for Hidden in the Sand, because I think it was his idea, and so pretty much Ross was the person that I kept kind of going to for approvals and guidance on that.
Definitely, it was a monumental task to produce a internet show with zero support, really, and we had no idea what we were doing. It's amazing that we got anything done. And amazing we were able to hire people like you and get people involved that were so good at what they did. It was crazy. Looking back, I'm like, no one should do that. It also took us like
Andrew. I'm pretty sure everyone. I feel like everyone has to do it now. The amount of content you have to generate to be a content creator is massive.
Actually, that's true. Yeah, it's now a part of every band. I think at the time, like, Atlantic Records didn't understand it, and our management was like, why aren't you guys making more music? And we were like, we're trying to get this thing done.
They did pay for it. They gave us money to make it, which was nice of them.
They did.
We have to appreciate that.
Amen.
But so Hidden in the Sun was a great experience. I mean, it was my brother John Loader at loader.com, by the way, who has excellent art up there if you want to check out his art. He did the designs of the characters. We storyboarded it together. He did all the character layouts. I mean, it was kind of a family operation. We did it quick, but I think the vision was clear and it was shared. So I think we got it finished quickly and efficiently and got it into the last episode. It might be the last segment of the last episode. Maybe?
It's definitely in the last episode. I forget if it's the last segment or not.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of attention. I mean, people still talk about it. It's you know, my daughter found it on TikTok. You know, it turned into something pretty big.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. You did a great job, and the song and Joe wrote the song. It's fantastic, and it's crazy how it still connects with people 15, 20 years later. You know, it's sort of a timeless little gem.
Well, that's the magic of Tally Hall. I mean, that was kind of the beginning of the journey. So then as time went on, pretty much Rob pretty much stayed in my close circle for years and years. Actually, Rob, I thought about this today. You are actually my John Ratzenberger. because here's the thing, everything that I've like executive produced or like directed or was in charge of, you've been a part of ever since, including something that we can't even talk about today in the future. Past
listen, this is
so
honestly
it's like
the best advice I can give aspiring songwriters is you just got to befriend Steve Loader. he'll just keep you in the mix. He'll just keep you around. There's tons of work. No, it's true. You've been far and away my number one champion in this town, and you've been an incredible partner and collaborator, and brought me onto things. I'm super grateful for all that.
No, I appreciate that, but I'm honestly, it's Rob's immense talent and skill that kind of made this happen. And where we
and looks
right was on Tinkerbell and Legend of the Never Beast.
Right.
So I remember calling you up for that and saying, all right, can you do a song for this? This is what the sequence is about and stuff like that. And I remember you sent me a demo like a couple of days later. Perfect, done. It was like, this is it. We got it. And
I've never gotten a better email back from a song submission than that email I got from you. You were like, it's perfect. This is going to be in the movie. And this was like 3 years before the movie came out, but sure enough, you're a man of your word.
Well, and it had a pretty heavy hurdles to go through, because at the time that was the Disney music feature group. So it was like John Lasseter, and it was a whole bunch of heavy hitters at that time, and everyone just loved the song. It's like, yeah, that's it, great. So we kind of started there, and actually we'd also started our association with Blue, who also did songs for the movie and did a score for the movie. And then Rob even told me that you worked merch for Blue.
I did. I was a massive Blue fan when he was starting out, and
you and me both.
Rob as well. Yeah, I remember they sent me Blue merchandise to pass out around campus in Michigan. It's very strange that
because you were a rep for his record label, Aware.
Yeah. I was a super John Mayer fan, and it led me to Blue and Toad the Wet Sprocket and all sorts of other stuff like that.
I remember you got an email being like, hey, does anyone in the Detroit area want to come sell merch for Blue? He's opening up for Toad the Wet Sprocket. And you were like, this sounds fun. We should go do this. And I was like, yeah, let's go. Met Blue. We were, probably 19 at the time. He was very friendly. And that
little did you know.
Put on a great show. Yeah. Little did we know. Years later, we get to work together on Tinkerbell and the Legend of the Never Beast. Thanks to you, Steve.
Well, and it was a really great experience, because I mean, you guys came to like the orchestral session and stuff like that that
was one of the like most exhilarating musical experiences I've ever had. Is because of you putting that song in the movie, I got to hear an orchestra play Blue's arrangement for the song I wrote, which was it was magical, super fun. Sitting next to KT Tunstall, who sang it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it was a 47-piece orchestra on the 20th Century Fox music lot where they scored
on the Eastwood scoring stage, right?
The Eastwood scoring stage. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah,
super cool.
And then actually, hopefully, Rob, you're not embarrassed by me saying this, but because these guys were so damn nice, at the end of the production, they gave me a song. You gave me a song. It's a song called the
That's
Animated.
True. Oh yeah, Blue and I wrote a song for you. Yes.
And it was amazing. And so you gave it to me like a little USB drive and stuff like that. And it was this brilliant song. And it was, but I felt guilty because I felt like the world should hear this great song, and I felt like, I can't share it because it was a gift to me. But I'm very happy to say it's out now. Yes. Yeah. So if you guys should check it out, it's
Blue,
Blue put out a 6-tape on Bandcamp. So 6-tape on Bandcamp. It's Blue's album. It's like one of the bonus tracks is the Animator. It's a duet with Rob, co-written by Rob. It's fantastic. It's a great song.
And the Blue is spelled BLEU for any of you guys who don't know. Yeah.
Phenomenal song.
Yeah, and you should check out his solo albums. They're actually pretty amazing. And he's done a lot of he did a couple of ELO tributes with the Hanson guys, and He's just done like really cool music. Yeah, I'm a fan. I know you two are. So
you turned me on to him, Andrew, and I became a huge fan. I remember doing landscaping one summer with Zubin and our friend Zach, and just like we didn't have a boombox, so we would just leave our car on. This is probably a very inefficient way to do it. We should have just bought a boombox, but crank the stereo. I remember listening to the album Redhead as we weeded people's beds.
Redhead.
Yeah. Yeah, come to think of it, that was a tremendous waste of gas and battery power. We really should have just purchased a boombox.
It cost more than we made from landscaping.
I think we might have spent more on gas powering Redhead to play than we made that day.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I've learned a lot when I start my landscaping business.
Well, so all of this leads us to The Ghost and Molly McGee. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about Ghost and Molly McGee, which is on Disney Plus right now. In fact, we just dropped 5 new episodes, so it's on. It's Ghost and Molly McGee is a great show. What it's about is it's about tween optimist Molly McGee. She is the most joyful person in the world. She's someone that would look at a glass half full, not just as a glass half full, but the glass is beautiful. The water is so clear. That water is going to be so tasty. She's that positive. Her family is moving to the town of Brighton. The town of Brighton's a little depressed. Maybe the factory there closed down, so it's kind of seen better times. And they move into this house, and in this house, up in the attic lives Scratch the ghost. Scratch has a job to keep the misery levels strong in the town of Brighton. He's supposed to keep everyone miserable in the town of Brighton. That's his job. And the town is already depressed. So he's like, this is an easy gig. I got this covered because I don't have to do anything. It's already depressed. So when Molly moves in, this shakes his world up because she's so happy and optimistic and cheerful and positive. It's like, well, this isn't going to work. So he botches a curse that actually bonds himself with Molly, because it's like, wherever you go, whatever you do, I'll be there haunting you, scaring you, that kind of thing. And it backfires because all of a sudden he's turned into Molly's best friend. And he's, wherever Molly goes, he goes too. So it was kind of the ultimate, like, torturous, terrible thing to happen to him. So what the show is about in a big overall sense is the friendship between these two very, very unlikely characters. And, she kind of softens Scratch's cynical heart through the journey of the series. And I'll talk about Robin 1 second about his music, but I gotta mention Ashley Birch is the voice of Molly. She's absolutely fantastic. She has a huge internet presence, but you'll know her from many, many voices she's done on video games, on animation, but also she's a story editor and writer and stars in Mythic Quest on Apple TV, and she's amazing in that. And Scratch the Ghost is played by Dana Snyder, who also does tons of animation voices, but his Marlon Brando Godfather voice, the one you will know him for, is Aqua Teen Hunger Force Master Shake.
Right.
So that's what you know him by.
My wife
they
and
are
I,
both fantastic.
just to interrupt, my wife and I did a rewatch of The Sopranos recently, and there's a scene where Anthony Jr. is watching Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and Dana's voice is in The Sopranos, and I got to be the one to tell him that. Somehow, 20 years since it aired have gone by with no one telling him he is, for about 3 seconds, featured on one of the most iconic TV shows of all time. So I'm proud to put that feather in my cap.
Yeah, the cast is amazing, and they can sing very, very well, which leads us into the music. So when we were starting to do this show, we realized that the show has a lot of heart. It's really funny, and there's also opportunity for us to be quirky, because that's kind of a sensibility I bring to the table. Because the show was created by Bill Motz and Bob Roth, and I've known them for many, many years. And we kind of have roles to play in the show, whereas Bill is kind of the heart of the show, Bob is kind of the grouchy, cynical comedy of the show, and I'm the weird. But so we all kind of play together, and it made sense. Like, okay, this, and being a huge music fan, it felt like, all right, let's get some songs in here, and quirky songs. Now, Rob already has had a really well-established career with Disney, doing a bunch of preschool stuff. And actually, Rob, do you want to talk about that before I kind of talk about Molly?
You're in a flow. I want you to continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did Tots, and you did a bunch of really great preschool stuff. And when the opportunity came up and said, "Oh, I know the person who can do, really fun, quirky stuff that kind of hits this," Rob's name came up immediately. And actually, it was a pretty easy sell to Disney at the time because you were doing the preschool stuff. They were a little concerned, like, well, can he transition to a 6 to 11 space? Like, oh, yes, he can. And what I was really thrilled about is because it felt like I could get more of your actual kind of voice, your actual sensibility, on an animated project like this, because for those of you that don't know, Rob is actually ridiculously funny in real life, incredibly witty. And though, all the preschool stuff, it beautiful melody, really wonderful songs, it's not quite as quirky or edgy as Rob can get. And I think this show kind of really gave a huge opportunity to kind of give Rob, the soundstage to be himself. Would you agree with that, Rob? I hope so.
I would. What's funny is, like, I remember we had this initial meeting where you guys kicked me off on what was essentially an audition song. And I walked away from the meeting thinking, okay, they want like kind of a Disney Junior-esque, like really simple, sweet song. And then they're going to juxtapose it with all this quirky edginess in the visuals. And I think I was like, okay, that could work. That's a fun idea. So I wrote like essentially a Disney Junior song, a really straightforward song. And I turned it in and you guys called me back and you're like, this isn't working. This isn't what we want. Like, you're basically like, why isn't it funny? And I was like, oh, is that what you wanted? I did not realize I completely misunderstood the mission. And then I wrote a second version, which thankfully you did like. It was a major misfire my first go out. I don't know how well you remember that, but yeah, it was exactly what you didn't want and what you just described getting away from.
But I understand why it happened. And I remember talking about it because it felt like, oh yeah, no one has asked you to kind of be yourself on a track. And like for instance, I'm seeing in the chat, people are saying edgy Rob. Just to give you an example, there's a song, Together Forever. Here's just 2 lines of that song. And you're never alone because we're apart. Like a parasitic worm, I live in your heart. So that's a lyric from that song. So if people wanted to know what edgy meant, that's what edgy meant on a kid's show.
Yeah.
And the kids' show was, and it's meant to be all, it is created for 6 to 11, but it's really meant to be for 4 quadrant for family viewing. Well, the show has kind of a SpongeBob-y, Ren and Stimpy kind of sensibility to it, college audience.
I mean, I watch it and I've read the scripts, I've seen the animatics, I've kind of seen it shepherd along through the animation process, and I crack up at some new thing every time. There's always something funny. It's my sense of humor entirely. I love the writing. I love the all the added jokes they slip into the boards. It's a hilarious show. It's super funny, and it's definitely it was a nice change of pace at the time, because as much as I love doing the Disney Junior stuff, you're right, it wasn't like, it didn't give me a chance to play that edgy side and lean into trying to come up with clever lyrics. You tend to kind of keep things a little bit simpler for the preschool audience, which is, works well for that demographic. But this is definitely, it's a lot of fun to work on.
Well, and also that was the beginning of asking you to genre hop fairly often. Yep. I think so. Okay, so I'm just thinking of how many different genres you attacked. I think we have we have straight pop, we have country, we have a musical, we have and one I want to ask you about, because this was an interesting experience, I think, for you, a K-pop song. Can you tell us about the creation of the K-pop song?
Well, let me tell you. You gotta thank Google Translate in this day and age. When someone assigns you, write a song that's partially in Korean, you just go right over to Google Translate. First of all, rule number 1 is don't make the Korean part the part that rhymes. That's how people get into trouble. You just write the rhyme you want, and then you translate the first half of the line into Korean, pronounce it with the little automated robot voice on Google Translate, repeat it into the microphone. Bob's your uncle. You've written a K-pop song. I actually did have work with I tried to do that, And then I like called a Korean translator, got a referral for a Korean translator. And I was like, can you just double check this is all correct? And they're like, oh, this is completely nonsensical. This is not right at all. But they managed to fix it.
Well, and also, you also recorded it. We, of course, this was all during quarantine time. So it was a Zoom record from. You want to tell us about that a little bit about that record?
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting here in my studio in Los Angeles, and the artist was this amazing K-pop star named Ailey, who was recording from Seoul. And it took some doing, but the logistics were worked out, and yeah, we were able to do. I mean, it's really like on the other side of the globe, so it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was, and it really, I mean, if you guys watch the show, there's at least a Rob song in just about every episode, sometimes more than one. And
that particular episode, I think, has 3.
Yeah, that's
that
3.
That was a very musical heavy episode. Yeah.
I have a question. I went on Spotify to I just wanted to hear all the music straight up. There's only 5.
I know. I hope they release more of it. I don't know why I'm not sure if it's, I don't know what the reason they haven't put more of the song clips out on YouTube. I think you can find like bootleg uploads of the songs on YouTube pretty easily. If you search Melly McGee song.
Yeah,
but,
there's a lot.
I know, it's a bummer. Disney hasn't done an official release yet.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will.
I would recommend, because all of Rob's songs are worthy of release. I totally recommend, if you guys want to write to Disney Music Group and ask for them, that would be great, because I mean we're what, 50, 60?
Go, guys.
How many songs have you written so far, Rob?
Well, 40 plus per season. Usually 40 plus the odd episode with 2 songs. So I mean it'll be 85, 86 by the end of season 2. It's a lot of songs. Rob,
before we should talk about that, but before that, like this, of the 5 songs that, yes. Abraham Lincoln, you have Kelsey Grammer on there. Without looking at it, I was like, that's Rob. And then I looked and I was like, oh no, you sound so similar to Kelsey Grammer.
You're the first person to tell me that. And why, thank you.
I think so. I mean, like, I feel like you were putting on a character voice. Like, it was you trying to be like a deeper kind of voice.
It was me doing Frasier, doing Abraham.
Yeah, you're dead on Kelsey Grammer.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
I have to say that one of the treats I get is I get all the demos that Rob is singing pretty much all the time, depending on whatever character voice it is. So I get to hear him do all of these types of voices at the same time, which is pretty exciting too. So yeah, that's always an added plus of this. So
it's true. I get to practice my Southern accent every few episodes. That's really the only accent I do. Any other accents I feel are probably offensive. But for some reason, I'm still allowed to do a cowboy voice, and it's okay.
Rob still does, and for those who want, he does female voices as well, and just pitches them, and they're pretty good.
Yeah, I sing. I basically do what they did for Alvin and the Chipmunks to sing female parts in the demos. I slow the song down, then I sing it, and then speed it up. So
it sounds great.
Effective, and a little distracting.
And then, and like, just some of the other songs that I wanted to kind of mention is my best friend's bat mitzvah episode, which is a song that everyone talks about, that was probably an unusual assignment, I would imagine.
That was a fun one because I grew up in West Bloomfield, Michigan, which is, there's a lot of Jews living in West Bloomfield, I myself being one of them. And we had at least a bar mitzvah, usually 2 per weekend. Well, from the time you're 12 to the time you're 14, as your entire grade passes that, rite of passage at their 13th birthday. So I was definitely had a lot of memories to call on as far as specific bar and bat mitzvah tropes to bring back. Yeah, I remember fondly mashed potato bars that were just all the fixins you could possibly imagine. I was definitely a fat kid. No one could stop me from going back to the second, the third time. I had my way with that mashed potato bar, and it was nice to
I've never had a mashed
back.
potato bar.
Oh, you got to go to Temple Israel on a Saturday night.
Definitely.
Just wear a suit, pretend like you know the bar mitzvah, and help yourself to some delicious mashed potatoes. You won't be sorry.
And that's in the song. It's in the song. The mashed potato bar is actually
it is.
I don't know if that's like a normal Temple thing, but it was for you. So.
But that was a really funny setup. I want to say, I don't want to get it wrong and guess the wrong writer who wrote that episode because that was probably 2 years ago that we did. But I can't take any credit for the hilarious notion of doing a Disney princess style song about Molly's best friend's bat mitzvah. It was just like, it was the one thing about the scripts for this show is they tee up the song so funny. Like the setups have so much comedy baked into them right from the get-go, that like 2/3 of the work is already done. It's sort of just like filling in the blanks. That was just a great songwriting premise to be handed.
Yeah, and it's and also when having Ashley and Dana kind of come in and do the vocals for the show, how has that experience been? Because
oh my God!
I imagine that's.
Well, the craziest thing about that is, and I've heard Bill and Bob talk about this, the show creators, that they did not originally plan to make this a musical show. I think that was your contribution.
I kind of forced my way into that one. Yeah.
And they had already cast Ashley Birch as Molly, and they had no idea if she could sing or not. And thank goodness it turns out she's a phenomenal singer. Dana also studied musical theater in college. He's an amazing performer. So yeah, it's always like, you know, you make the song sound as good as you can, turn the demo in, and then it's always like a huge step up in comedy when they get in there and add their touches, add their acting abilities. Dana will crack, like both of them are incredible improvisers and ad-libbers and find little nuggets to just heighten whatever joke it is. Yeah, their talents are mind-blowing.
And we also had, and then also I feel like I would love to mention there was a couple of moments. Rob, you know, hit all his deadlines, got everything done ahead of time, was fantastic. But you had a couple of happy life events where you had to kind of step away from the show very, very briefly. And so we had an
paternity leave. Yeah.
Yes. And we had an assist from Thomas Walsh of Pugwash. He stepped in for a couple of songs, and Linus of Hollywood, who stepped in for a couple of songs. But it was a pretty monumental task because they had, you know, seen and heard your songs prior to that and knew the level it had to hit.
Aforementioned Blue wrote the songs in one of the episodes as well. Yep. It's been a very an awesome collective.
Yeah, and so it's a great show. It's really funny. It's on Disney Plus right now. Just search Ghost and Molly McGee on there. We love people that watch it on Disney Plus. Those are the numbers that we really need.
And by we mean those are the numbers that the network cares about.
Yeah.
The ones that we want, yeah.
So actually, go ahead, Andrew. Sorry, Andrew, I feel like I commandeered this. I apologize.
No, Steve, I love it. I love that you came on you're an interesting guy, and I love.
I'm directing this. I'm sorry.
I feel you really are in the way of the conversation. I enjoy it. Keep going.
Well, actually, I also would love to ask you guys some Tally Hall questions if you're up for it. Is that cool?
Definitely. Let me just think. Is there anything else we should discuss before we go that direction?
Poggers,
Steve.
I just wanted to get it out of the way so people would stop putting that in the chat.
What was that? Okay, I saw that on the chat. What's that about?
I don't know.
Rob, that was one of my questions for you. I got
say
like
Poggers?
10 questions.
Andrew,
They
you
want
know me.
To say that.
I slip Poggers into every conversation we have
You
for
do.
years. Yeah.
No one needs to ask. You'll do it for free.
I would have done it at some point, whether they typed it in the chat or not.
So I wanted to ask Steve, how did you get involved with Molly McGee? You're technically an executive producer, but you're more than that. You're also involved with some directing, and so yeah. How did you get involved with the show?
It was kind of a roundabout way to get on Molly McGee because I was developing another show which is coming out soon, Marvel show. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which was announced already, so I can at least mention the name.
Cool.
And I was kind of focused on that. And Bill and Bob were developing Molly, and of course, good friends with them. And it was one of those moments where it just felt like, you know, we should do this together. This makes a lot of sense because our chemistry is so good. Yeah. And it felt like, development could be a slow process, so it feels like I can kind of dip my toe into a couple of projects at the same time and kind of get things moving. So I kind of did both simultaneously. And I think what was great is because I was also fresh eyes on the project because Bill and Bob had been on it for a little while. So I was able to look at it and say, oh, you know what would freshen this up is music or this or that. and definitely staging ideas and some design ideas. So I think that collectively we redeveloped the show in a couple of months. I think that was really kind of when we hit the ground running, and we created a pilot, which pretty much got everyone excited, and the show just got greenlit from there. It was a very quick turnaround. I mean, the development could take anywhere from 1 to 2 years, depending, but considering when I hit the ground on Molly and completion, it was a couple of months, I think.
Which is especially crazy considering I think I've heard Bill and Bob say that they had initially pitched it like 10, 15 years earlier, and it has sort of been kicking around for a decade. But I guess the collaboration helped usher it into its true form.
Was the pandemic? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Was the pandemic helpful to get it moving quicker? And that you didn't need live actors in the studio; you could do it from afar.
It was actually quite the opposite. So well, like I'll just say this: I for this Instagram Live, I'm wearing a button-down shirt. I got the ring light thing going. I'm not in my pajamas. You know, I'm actually caring about what I look like on screen right now, which is very different than what has been the past 2 years. So for Molly, we started it in office, and then the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden we had to scramble to kind of figure out a way to do this remotely, where everyone was kind of spread out all over the place. And it was a very interesting learning experience, because even recording voices, people had to kind of find a closet in their house or create like a fort, like a couch fort in their living room to kind of be able to record their vocals and stuff. And it was a really stressful time, but I gotta say it was also a little exhilarating to be, first of all, I'm super glad that we were doing this, because if I didn't have, things on my mind or be able to kind of work on this, I probably would have gone crazy. So I was able to focus. But in the industry, animation was the only thing that didn't stop, because live action shut down immediately and there's nothing you can do about it. But animation, you can do, independently from each other. It's about drawing and bringing in elements and connecting those elements later. So animation did not skip a beat. So we did pretty much 99.9% of Molly McGee under pandemic conditions.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, I'm done with my question. I feel like we've gone a while now. We can first of all, I think we should talk a little bit about the songwriting process for Rob, for Molly McGee and children's shows in general. Versus a lot of people are wondering, how do you jump into that mode versus writing songs for Charlie Ho or Rob Cantor or whatever it is? So I guess talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, I guess like the biggest difference is that you don't decide what the song is about. The writers have already written the script by the time I get kicked off on songwriting for a show, and so there's already kind of a roadmap established. I know I have to get from point A to point B, and sometimes there's like a reference song that they'll give me, or they'll say we want it to have this kind of energy. So yeah. And then once that's established, then it kind of frees you up to be creative within the confines you're given, which I do enjoy. It's removing that sort of macro conceptual burden is really fun. And then it's just about, for a show like Molly McGee, for me, it starts with the lyrics, trying to find some clever jokes to help move the scene forward or heighten the comedy that's already happening, and find a tuneful melody to string it all on. And was that coherent at all?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have the subject. The animation's not done until the song is done.
No, they will storyboard to the song for a show especially where the characters are singing. They'll take the song and then they'll actually storyboard to that and then animate to that. So I write my songs at the very beginning of the process, and then any given episode will air like a year and a half later. It's a very long, very slow process.
You have a time frame to begin with, though. You're like, you have 1 minute or
they'll usually give me. Sometimes it's very specific, like for the Disney shorts that I've done, they'll be like, this is going to air in a 90-second slot, so it needs to be exactly 90 seconds to the dot. For Molly McGee and for the Disney Junior series I've done, it's a lot more open-ended. They're like, we want it to be about a minute, but if it's a minute and 20 seconds, if it's funny or if it works well, whatever, they'll be like, okay, we can make that work. And then sometimes they'll come back, down the line and say, we're short, we're running over for this episode. What do you think about snipping out this second chorus or something like that? And it's usually pretty manageable. But yeah, give me a rough sense of timing.
Orchestration and instrumentation and stuff. Do you have a certain palette you use for different? I know the answer to some of these questions, but I figured I'd ask it. Do you have a certain palette you use for different shows?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's different from thing to thing. So I'm trying to wave my arms around to turn my motion sensor lights back on. There we go. Got them.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys can even sense the difference, but it got really dark in here all of a sudden. I guess we've been sitting here chatting for a while, not moving our bodies, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So for like the Disney Junior stuff, I think it's a desirable thing for the show to have a sound and for all the songs to have a connected palette. But for Molly McGee, for instance, the genre jumping thing is fun and it works well to give each episode and each song its own identity. So it's different for different projects, but generally speaking, I'd say for the preschool stuff, there is a defined palette that we stick to, but then we'll jump around a little bit. If it's one of the characters' French uncle singing it, then we'll introduce some, accordion or French sounds, whatever. And but for Molly, it's like, yeah, it's actually been one really fun thing about the show. There usually will be one or two specific songs that we're kind of referencing, or at least wanting to tap into some of the same vibe. And it's turned into a fun little project for each song to research the production of that reference track and see what drum machine was used and what keyboard was this originally played on, and where would what type of reverb or delay did they use on the vocals. So it kind of has given me a little production case study assignment, which I quite enjoy.
It was like Beastie Boys Sabotage, right? Was one of the references that we asked
for Obstruction was the song, yeah.
So how long does it take you from start to finish to do a draft of a song, and how many songs are you writing per week or per day?
For Molly McGee, I generally get a week per song for Molly McGee, and then for the Disney Junior stuff, can be 1 week or 2 weeks. So I'm writing a couple a week, generally speaking, depending on what I've got going on.
And
it's a pretty fast turnaround time.
It's incredibly fast. When you first started out, you were doing everything, but eventually over time, you tend to have a process now where you have people that understand your sound, and you developed your sound palette, so you're able to, sketch things out and then have people develop.
Sometimes, it's different from project to project, and it's different from like season 1 to season 2, say. But yeah, sometimes I'm doing everything myself, soup to nuts. Sometimes I'm writing it and having help on the production side. So it varies.
Yeah, we talked about this. The one thing that you can't pass off is your tone, your
sensibility, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. No one else could write your lyrics. No one else could write your song.
I'm working on an AI bot that will handle that.
One day.
Yeah.
One day.
I'm going to automate this whole process, baby.
A question for both of you. Do you have a favorite song from the series? I guess that you enjoy, or you enjoyed working on, or
whatnot? I'm curious to hear Steve's answer for this question.
Oh, it's Lose Lose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think I'm almost a little embarrassed to say that because it's also the most Disney of the songs, but it's the Rob spin on it. So it's this musical. It's almost like a Beauty and the Beast kind of musical kind of number thing going on, but it's through the lens of Rob. So for some reason that really connected to me, and it is serious, but there's gags. There's still jokes in it.
There are a few jokes.
The scratch stuff is jokes in it, but it's so beautifully written, beautifully performed by Ashley. That one is probably a big standout for me.
Thanks, Steve. What's interesting? I don't know if this is interesting or esoteric, but I'll tell you, Steve, because I think you'll be interested. This song in the script was in a completely different place. And at our song kickoff meeting, we were all kind of like, this isn't feeling quite like the spot for the song. And Bill and Bob were like, well, let us go have a think on it. We'll come back with a different. And Bob just called me up a couple hours later and spitballed that we did kind of a sentimental. His reference was Billy Joel. I'm trying to remember what the reference for that one was. It was a Billy Joel ballad. He's like, what if we do it as Molly's looking out the window, wistful, thinking about this bind she's in? And yeah, it turned out it worked. It worked way better than I think where it was slotted originally. And it was a completely different song prompt in the script. Yeah, I have a favorite too. My favorite that's aired so far is definitely the song "Goat." I just like it. It's fun. It's Molly trying to train a goat, but the goats. That's your favorite episode. Yes, I've heard you say that.
It is. Yes,
it's a good app. Good strong.
What episode is that? Where is it in the season?
It's called "Goat Your Own Way," and that actually that's new. That's one of the new episodes on Disney Plus this week. That's
in the batch of 5 that just dropped on Disney Plus this week. Yeah, which I strongly encourage everyone to watch. You'll hear my
you've got literally goat lyrics in it. You managed to that's the thing about Rob is that Rob playfully exhausts all like pun connections to whatever subject he's writing about in a really fun way. So
amazing. Okay, Steve, I'll turn it over to you. I received, I would say hundreds of questions from people.
Oh, geez.
But we've been on this call for over an hour, so I feel like we've touched on a lot of territory. I might ask a couple of them, but yeah, if you have questions about Tally Hall, so a lot of these are Tally Hall. Let's see what if they overlap.
Well,
see where they go.
I had a list because first off, I want to thank Andrew and Rob for making this happen at kind of the last minute thing. Again, this was meant to kind of celebrate the new episodes of Molly McGee. So thank you, because I know this is really very
my pleasure.
And I put together a whole list of Tally Hall questions that I would have myself, thinking, well, I want the fans, because a lot of people are probably tuning in that want to hear about Tally Hall, as myself included. So I don't want to commandeer everyone's questions, because they're kind of my own particular little questions and stuff.
Well, ask one of them. Ask a couple of them.
I feel like your questions might be kind of very more specific than most people would ask, so they'll be good questions.
All right, so Marvin obviously is an album that I have to listen to from start to finish. I can't just pick out songs. And so when the Atlantic remix came out, I had to then merge the playlists, because you guys redid some of the songs. Like The Bidding is a completely different recording, and I think Be Born is tweaked in a big way. So, but a lot of the other ones are kind of remixed pieces. So what was the thinking behind the completely new version of The Bidding on the Atlantic version?
I think overall it was an insecurity thing, in that
did we re-record The Bidding?
Album was.
I'm trying to remember which two
we
re-recorded two.
It's actually a different tempo. The one on Quack is fast, and the one on Atlantic is a slower tempo, actually.
I remember we re-recorded.
I think we had so much time.
Mm-hmm. Were those the two?
Yeah, we spent so much time with
Chris Shaw.
I think so.
We re-recorded two, and then
that album that. Oh. It was time to like we had all our insecurities about the album, and when we had a chance to go in and we were like, okay, this is going to be for real. A lot of people are going to hear this for the first time. We were kind of embarrassed on the musical state of it. In that
I wouldn't say I agree with this answer.
Really? I felt like it was unpolished, and we're like, we're going to go
insecurities. Insecurities, yes, but I would say it was justifiably we were justifiably desiring to. Increase the quality of some things. Like, we recorded Marvin's originally at a studio called 40 Ounce Sound in Ann Arbor, which was great for us at the time. We basically had as much time as we want to record this album, which was awesome. But like the studio itself, it was.
And by the way, I found emails the other day. Sorry, I found emails the other day between Al and us, and they weren't very friendly. Al was like, there was one email. He's like, Death Cab recorded their album in 4 weeks on Atlantic Records. You guys need to finish this up.
Well, they should have worked at 40 Ounce Sound. It probably would have been a lot more affordable. But I remember we recorded the drums.
$13,000.
I remember being insecure about the drum sound and feeling like we had done it in this, you know, box of a room that wasn't, you know, designed by an acoustician to be the perfect recording environment to capture sound. And so I think we thought now we have the potential to go and record in a well-established studio with a beautiful room whose sound will be full and rich. So we did drums on all the tracks. Ross re-recorded everything, and then we recorded 2 songs, Soup to Nuts, which I guess we were remembering as Just Apathy and The Bidding.
The Bidding.
Yeah. Why do we record? I guess we were a little embarrassed by Just Apathy that we wanted to re-record the whole thing. But the demo was great. I don't know why, or the original version was great. That's why I'm not remembering re-recording that one all the way through. We must have though.
Well, I got to listen to both because they're both valid. That's the thing is, it's not like it's a slight like remix or a tweak. It's you gotta experience the whole entirety of Marvin's. You have to have both versions. You have to listen to both.
You have to.
I can't listen to that first
that's,
version.
Yeah, that's an obsessive perspective.
You're a true completist when it comes to music. I mean, you're Steve, the most passionate music fan I've ever met. So passionate that Steve once told me, he's like, I got this collection of Weezer demos. Do you want me to send it to you? It was like 1,200 Weezer demos. It was like 8 separate WeTransfer files. Like he couldn't fit it all into one upload. I got one after the next. Like Weezer demos part 1, part 2, part 3.
And it was before Rivers Cuomo released it himself. So
Gotcha.
I want to point out. So it wasn't just like
it was bootleg.
It was
You're a high-level collector.
Well, but also I want to give some love because it kind of connects to Not a Trampoline. So Rob was kind enough to kind of send me the demos of that just to kind of get another person's opinion on it and stuff like that. And I was presumptuous enough and obnoxious enough to send you a track listing, like a sequencing order.
Yeah. Which I think was pretty much
what it
ended up
oh
as.
Man, did I overextend here? And you were so kind about it because then you called me and said, okay, why did you put this here? And I had reasons. I had like a whole argument based on it.
Yes, you were very thoughtful. You had thoughtful commentary, and I'm pretty sure I went with almost exactly your track order.
Yes, I think you did. Because I remember and it wasn't even a debate, but it was about, I think the Alan Alda track, you intended it to be the last one. And I kind of talked you out of it a little bit to say you want to go out.
You felt very strongly that Lonely But Not Alone should be the last track.
Yes.
And
I love that album.
Yeah. Hey, thanks.
Did the Alan Alda track come out on your album? It wasn't on your album, right?
It was, yeah.
Was it? Okay, never mind. Someone asked about that. Why did you write that song, Rob?
I guess I thought it was funny to write a memoriam song for someone who wasn't dead. But I think
did he ever get
what
back
ended up
to
happening
you on
was,
that?
yeah, well, I had to get his approval. I photoshopped a picture of me and him laughing together and I wanted to include it in the album art. I think Bora did Bora did a lot of excellent. He's such an incredible Swiss Army knife of skills. Like he can play any instrument. He can Photoshop you into a jovial scene with Alan Alda. He can do it all. I had to get his approval to use his photograph. And so I sent him the song. I found his rep's email online, whatever, and sent a very nice letter explaining that I thought it would be a funny joke to basically tell the world how much I loved him and that I'm sad he's dead, even though he's alive. And Alan Alda, the rep replied by forwarding an email directly from Alan, the man himself. And he was just like, he had such a great sense of humor about it. He was like, okay, sounds good to me. Does this mean I can cash in my life insurance early? A wonderful response.
And actually, mentioning Bora, can I just do a quick shout out to Bora because Bora was such a big part of the Tally Hall history and stuff like that. And there was even a point where I told Bora, I got to develop an animated show based on your life. I just got to follow you around and just write all this stuff down because Bora just lives this crazy life. And actually, Andrew, can I comment here for one more quick thing?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, just because this is the right opportunity to kind of mention it, because I do get asked every now and then about the "and" video, because it was mentioned that we were making the "and" video at that time. So the "and" video was made under really stressful conditions because I had very little time to do it. The band was on tour. And so, but Bora was a trooper. Bora edited it. He like shot part of it. I mean, he did some absolutely amazing work on it. But ultimately didn't kind of land where we wanted it to land. But I watched it again the other day, and I was like, oh, I might have been maybe a little bit too hard on it. There's definitely stuff I would redo today, but there was a couple of pieces of it that I felt like, oh, this is all right. This is all right. So I wanted to kind of put that out there, now that, yes, it was kind of made, but yeah, that's what happened with that. So
you guys did some excellent work on it too.
For sure.
Some of the animation sequences. I mean, I hadn't seen it in years, and some of the animation sequences are incredible. And some of the editing is great, and some of the fan art that made in it it's like unbelievable that people are still making. Like I guess that might have been the beginning of like all this fan art that comes all the time. But yeah, it's pretty. There's some really great things about it.
There was a fan made "and" video recently that I saw, but I think it was from 2018, that had a lot of similar graphic influences to the actual video that, the official video we were making. I was like, wow. Of course it was just like, minds think alike.
Yeah.
But it was surprising.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you want to, like, because if you have like big tally hall questions,
I think this is good. If you have other tally hall questions, go for it. We'll see where we wind up.
All right, well, one last one. And this is going to be so trivial, and everyone's going to be disappointed that, is this the last tally question you're asking? Sorry, everyone. So when you guys transitioned to the vests, it was like on Craig Kilborn, I think was like the first time you guys wore the vest. Why? What was the thinking behind that? Because then it was universal from that point on.
Rob, you want to take it?
I'm trying to think back. I'm pretty sure the vests were Joe's idea. I mean, Joe had the vision for the shirts and ties in the first place. And then I think at a certain point we felt like we needed to not look like waiters at an Italian restaurant. We needed to somehow differentiate ourselves from wait staff at the venues we were playing. I think part of Joe's aesthetic is like this Victorian sort of elegance, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong in my memory of this. I told you before on text, guys, that you're going to be shocked how little I remember, but I'm pretty sure I remember that he thought this would be a cool way to class it up, and we all agreed it was like definitely a step up. It was a little bit more of a put together, svelte, thought out look than just the shirts and the ties. It made us look maybe a little bit more grown up and less like 18-year-olds wearing their dad's shirts and ties.
Yeah, I remember it the same way, and I'd also say to Joe's credit, from day one, he's always he like, if you're gonna do something, take it seriously, and he refused to go on stage in jeans and t-shirts like every other band. He's like, we should take ourselves seriously and have a look. So I was probably like, no, I don't want to do that. It's dorky, blah blah blah. But he was right. Like it was something that became a signature for Tally Hall, and it definitely, there are we'd go into dive bars and people would laugh at us, but by the end of the show they'd be like, okay, these guys are serious about what they do. I think that's good, like, life advice.
It always made us feel,
take yourself seriously.
But it definitely did make us feel, it definitely made us feel apart from a lot of the bands that we would play with. We just had a very different, I think, aesthetic, and felt unique when we were putting our shirts and ties on before the show. It was a stark contrast, I guess, neither good nor bad. But
did you have backup ties just in case something went wrong, like you spilled something on it, or you lost a tie?
Pretty sure we had a few. I want to say we ordered the first batch of ties from like ties.com.
Yeah,
and they weren't terribly expensive. I think we bought like 2 or 3 each, so would have some backups. And then at a certain point, we got them custom made. We wanted to pick out the exact shade, and we wanted a slimmer tie look, so we got them custom made by somebody.
Wow! And we got some very I'll call them creative interpretations of how our tie should look. I don't know if you remember. I still have like.
What do you mean?
Closet,
oh, like
but
the original
they were
batch
totally
of custom
unwearable.
ones? Yeah.
We were like, that's not what we were thinking, but anyway. So, okay. All Tally Hall questions answered.
It was just those two, the bidding and time.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, fan base. I don't, you know, like, these guys probably got to
Okay.
go. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna do a rapid fire ending. Just a few questions from the fan. I got so many questions. I can't even. Oof. Okay, Steve, what's the best Kool-Aid flavor from Turn the Lights Off?
Red.
Okay. What is your favorite part of working on the animation and the process of it? From Lila Alyssa.
That's a hard one to answer in lightning round fashion. Oh, what was your answer, Steve?
Hidden in the Sand? We're talking about, is it regarding Hidden in the Sand?
What's your favorite part of the animation process?
Oh,
in general,
watching the completed version with an audience.
Awesome. What are you currently watching?
Oh, geez, everything. I'm looking forward to Atlanta tonight. Our Flag Means Death is fantastic. So, yeah.
What's that on?
HBO Max.
Okay. What cartoons did you watch growing up that influenced your style?
Tex Avery cartoons, the MGM cartoons, the droopy stuff, and the Bob Clampett, Bugs Bunny stuff. The wackier physical stuff was my thing.
Awesome. Okay. Any advice for getting into the animation industry? I think you kind of covered that.
Yeah, and well, I'll add to that. There's a couple of really great animation conventions, the CTN Expo. I think it's something called Lightbox. Get yourself seen. Bring your portfolio to these conventions, and also have a healthy Instagram, have healthy social media, because a lot of recruiters are looking at your art on social media.
Good advice. Okay. I should have asked like Rob and then Steve and Rob and Steve. I didn't do it that way though.
I'm feeling a little bit left out of this lightning round.
Yeah, Rob, you're getting a bunch of lightning rounds too. But what was it like? I don't know how lightning round these are going to be, but what was it like going from being in Tally Hall to doing more independent work? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, well, it did feel. I remember the first like few songs I wrote.
We lost Rob.
Oh man, what timing?
Yeah, I mean, maybe
he enjoyed transitioning from the band to independent work. He loved it.
Yeah,
it was thrilling for him.
Steve, you can take all these questions, okay? Any plans on releasing normal music?
I do know this. I do know that it's probably my fault that Rob doesn't have another album out, because I keep giving him work. So I know that he's written a lot of solo material that has just not been released yet. I do know that.
That is true. Okay. Since we lost Rob, I feel like this is probably a good place to stop anyway. And we'll bring Rob back another time to talk about more his process, I guess. But yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for joining. Everybody watch The Ghost and Molly McGee on Disney Plus, streaming now. You can watch it whenever you want. I watched a bunch of it. It's a really fun show. And the songs are great. And yeah, it's great to see you guys collaborating and making good art all these years later. So,
well, and Andrew, thank you for the opportunity to kind of talk about this. I really, really appreciate it. I've watched all of your Instagram Live episodes. This is a fantastic show. Wow. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Good to see you. Take care.
Keep up later. Bye.
So
thank you. Bye.